The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Jimmy Butler met with Pat Riley last week to discuss his future in Miami.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast.
David, the Jimmy Butler stuff does not stop. Here's what we learned on Tuesday. Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley met face-to-face, and Butler reiterated his desire to get traded. Jimmy told him that he will not sign a new contract with the Heat. He's willing to pick up his option for next season, but only to facilitate a trade. That the Heat have engaged with multiple teams in trade talks around Jimmy Butler, have received offers for Jimmy Butler, but none that they like. The Heat are also expecting Jimmy Butler to return to the team for Friday's game against the Nuggets. And owner Mickey Arison plans to meet with Jimmy Butler on Friday, presumably before the game, and that the team will meet later this week to discuss options for how to handle Jimmy Butler for the rest of the season if he is not indeed traded. A lot to get to in today's episode, David. Yeah, a lot of stuff that, I think we kind of knew that was sort of reconfirmed on Tuesday and things like that. But what do you make of Jimmy's face-to-face with Pat Riley during this face-off?
Again, to reiterate, so much to kind of break down, and there's so many different nuanced levels that we could explore this in there. But the first thing I thought of when I heard this is that there's an element to this beyond just the money, because at least if I'm interpreting this correctly, it's that even had Pat Riley offered the extension or the contract that that Jimmy wanted, he wasn't going to accept it anyway. The bridge
during this face-to-face meeting.
During this face-to-face meeting, he's expressed that he does not want to play for the Miami Heat. So we had talked a lot about Jimmy's primary goal of requesting a trade was to get paid, and that's totally fine. But the report that came out today indicated that there were other elements that Jimmy might have been disenfranchised with regarding the team and the way that they didn't acquire said superstar. I thought those were not necessarily minimal. I just didn't think that they were as important a factor in Jimmy determining that he no longer wanted to play for the Heat. But between what Pat Riley said, between the friction between Eric Spoelstra, perhaps, likely, and Jimmy Butler, what Pat said in the last postseason press conference, and between the fact that that the Heat could not acquire another superstar to join Jimmy Butler in Miami, those factors all played a significant part in Jimmy not wanting to be here, aside from the money. The money is a factor, no doubt about it. But it seems like even had Pat Riley offered that money, there was much more beyond it and has weighed heavily on Jimmy and his decision to part ways with the team. So that was the first thing I took away from it, is that he's really upset with the way that the franchise has been run over the last couple seasons, and he's not happy with the lack of moves that they've made.
Most divorces occur because of finances. A lot of divorces happen because of money, right? And I think this divorce starts with that. I think we're right to read that, had maybe Pat Riley offered the extension in the summer when he also offered the extension to Bam Adebayo, this stuff isn't happening. I do agree with you that it does feel like now, even if now that Pat Riley offered the 2-year, $113 million max extension, that Jimmy would be like, here's two of my favorite fingers. See you later. And I think the part of that is because of the ego, because of all the sort of the additional, all this stuff that sort of festered and occurred between Pat Riley's comments and his end of season press conference and now. But it, again, going back to the divorce thing, it's like, I've never been divorced, but I'm trying to use this analogy. It's like you get divorced because of finances, and then all of a sudden you're fighting over the toaster. It's like, I never really cared about that toaster, but you're definitely not going to get that toaster, so I'm going to get that toaster. Now we're fighting over a toaster. And it feels like all this stuff is just toasters, right? Like you never got the superstar that I wanted. It's like, okay, this is coming out. Like, no, we're at the core issue here is the fact that the Heat did not offer Jimmy Butler that extension, and in not doing so, wounded him emotionally, insulted him to the point of no return. And a lot of and Pat Riley and the Heat front office and Jimmy Butler and his representation have done a lot of things since then that have basically made the situation worse. So the situation that started just about money has become a lot more of other things. But I guess ground zero for all of this was the money. But now all this stuff is sort of piled on top of it now to the point of, yeah, there's no fixing this thing anymore.
No, they cannot. It's irreparable. So you mentioned the fact that Mickey Harrison was meeting with him, Pat meeting with him face to face. Like, the team is going all out and trying to find some way of smoothing this process out. But it seems like Jimmy has dug his heels and he is wounded. It's a good point. Like, the money, as much as the money means something, there's an emotional factor tied to it. Like, it's not just the money. The money is representative of your commitment to me, and you're saying thank you for being a franchise great player over the last 5.5 seasons. And the fact that they didn't offer him that money has hurt him on an emotional level that I would not have expected. I thought there would be more give and take in terms of, what Jimmy and the front office could align with. Like, that it could have been a more team friendly deal, if you want to look at it that way, but one that would pay him a lot of money. But obviously that's not the case. Like, it's just surprising to me.
I think Riley lit that option on fire when he called him out in his end of season press conference. It wasn't just that they didn't sign that they didn't offer the extension, but Riley used a public space to basically be like, we're not happy with you either, and here are the things that we're unhappy with. I don't think Riley handled that at all the right way, and I don't think either side handled this.
He
much
can't
the
help
way.
it.
He can't.
Riley. He cannot,
and neither can Jimmy. Right?
And
These are two stubborn, strong-willed individuals who got to the places they are because of their stubbornness and strong will. And what had been a happy marriage for a very long time, an organization that could house and even kind of treat Jimmy's interested character traits that kind of got him in trouble in previous stops. They treat those as a badge of honor in a lot of ways. Right. But even those things, there's just an end point here, clearly, when the money kind of started to get involved here. And when, Jimmy Butler obviously did not play up to standard last year and everything that happened there. But what do you make of this, like, Mickey Harrison planning to meet with Jimmy Butler? This, according to the Sun Sentinel's Ira Winderman on Friday. That's like an unprecedented move. Mickey Harrison is not Jerry Jones, right? This is not a guy who gets involved in the sports product very much. So the fact that he's meeting with Jimmy Butler, like, what do you think that's all about?
The doomsday clock is at 11:59, basically, and there's this breaking out the final last stop for Mickey to say, as the team governor, team owner, we love you here. We want to show you how much we appreciate you here, and we want to be able to write the final chapter of your career here in Miami because you have meant this much to the organization. Like, I have to think that they're going to reiterate everything that they said and offer him that deal and see if they can smooth things over, because those things do appeal.
Offer him what deal?
Like, the deal he wants.
The extension?
Yeah. I think that's what they're going to do. I think that's what they're going to offer him, the final. Wow. I agree. But at the same time, it's like, why would an owner meet with a team? Like, this is because now we're facing backlash. We're seeing the team rather face backlash, and Pat Riley is that they keep pushing stars out. And, you see a number of players kind of side with the front office, et cetera. But I think they're learning their lesson to some extent from 2016 and how badly that was perceived around the league. It took a long time for them to kind of repair that public image and the image within basketball circles around the league.
Yeah,
if you could do that to Dwayne, if you could force Dwayne out, and that's a player that you drafted and who in his third season carried you to a title, that's not a good look.
I think this is different though, because we discussed this earlier this week. Like, there is not a lot of sympathy for Jimmy Butler's situation. Like, a lot of people around the league view Jimmy as having quit, as having kind of gone back on the contract that he's
retired players,
former players. But and I will tell you, within the there are a lot of people in the NBA now that see it through that lens. Like, Dwayne Wade played out his contract, and it kind of got frosty at the end there during the summer. But everybody expected Dwayne Wade to be back. It was a surprise when he wasn't. And when Pat Riley did mishandle it, he kind of mishandled it in a small window of time where this has just sort of been drawn out. And I think there's a lot of dirty laundry obviously being aired right now. I would be surprised if Mick Garrison did that. I do wonder if this is just sort of a mediator type situation where, look, you obviously cannot meet with Pat Riley face to face. That did not help matters. That didn't work. You guys are both strong-willed, stubborn, hard-headed individuals. You guys don't need to be in a room together anymore. It's not Eric Spoelstra's place to do it because, as we're going to talk about, his job is already tough enough. So who else is left, right? It can't be like, it has to be Mickey Garrison. And maybe he says something to the effect of, look, we did have a weird sort of our relationship with Dwayne was fractured. Our relationship with Shaquille O'Neal was bad when he left. And with each of those, like both of those guys have their jerseys in the rafters here. That is still possible maybe for you too, if that's something that you want, if we can all handle this better than we've handled it
in the past
so far. And again, that's my best guess as to what it is just a shrewd businessman, Mickey Garrison, trying to do shrewd business and step in and mediate here is what I imagine might be the message. And maybe also like, hey, here are our options. We've went to the league office. We've asked about all these things. Like this is we've done everything we can to try to appease you. These offers aren't out here. The trade that you want isn't materializing. This is what we got. Let's try to make the best of it. Maybe that's what it is. Or maybe he is going to be saying, you know what, screw it. Here's $113 million. Please make everything easier on us.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKED ON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
4-5 for Jamal Murray.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast.
Got to start with the man of the hour. 45 points is insane for a number of reasons. This was such a big game for him. By the way, for those that are confused here, Matt was fried from doing several podcasts over the course of today. So he's taking tonight off. He will be back tomorrow, I got to imagine. So gonna be just me, Ryan Blackburn, on this particular episode, but hopefully you guys will still enjoy. I get to bask in the glory of this particular game. Jamal Murray goes for 45, shoots 18 of 26. Good gosh, from the field, goes 5 of 9 from 3, 45 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, had 5 turnovers. Who cares? He was getting like double and triple teamed by the end of this thing. This was an unbelievable game. And it's so funny how these things come around, because I was just talking about how the Mavericks are a tough matchup for him. The Mavericks are a pretty difficult team for him to match up with because of their perimeter defense, because of the wing defenders that they have. Najee Marshall's very good, very physical. Quentin Grimes gave Murray some trouble in the last 3 matchups. Murray was 18 of 51 in the previous 3 games that he played against this Mavericks team. He was 18 of 26 tonight, and he did it in so many different ways. He was aggressive from 3. He got to his spots from 2. The fall-away jumper was crazy. He got to the rim, and he didn't overshoot, I'll say. Like, honestly, he took the shots that he was supposed to take because he generated the space that he needed to get there. And that's where you look at Jamal Murray and say, oh, yeah, he's looking good. Because so often this season, I've been thinking about his game and thinking about what he provides for this Nuggets team, thinking about what he was in years past and why he's struggling this year overall. It's the separation, it's the burst, it's the indecision, and not necessarily knowing what he wants to do. Tonight, he knew what he wanted. Tonight, he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and it was exactly what the Nuggets needed on the front end of a back-to-back. Dallas didn't know what hit them, man. 32 points for Jamal Murray in the first half alone. He could have probably gone for 50, 55, 60 if they just weren't going to double. But they decided to double, and he made the right play most of the time, and the Nuggets still stayed ahead, and they won this game by 20. And Denver just did exactly what they needed to do to get out of there with the W. But obviously it's about Jamal, and just seeing him go off in this way and seeing him be aggressive and getting to his spots. I really liked some of the threes that he took early in this game. He made, I think, 3 or 4 threes in the first quarter alone, had 19 points in the quarter. And there was one off of a relocation 3 where he basically pump faked off of a Jokic pass. Defender flies by, he resets, relocates, and hits a 3. But then there was one where he just caught and shot. He absolutely put it forth, where so many times in this situation he would hesitate coming off of a screen, whether he's dribbling into the pick or if he's just coming off of a screen and trying to navigate. That was not what happened here. He hit some pull-up threes in this game, no hesitation. And when he gets into that zone and is in that comfortable place, you have to love what he can do and what it looks like. He starts to look like the guy that shot 42% from 3 last year. I looked up the numbers now on the season. Murray's up to 38%. He's looking a lot better. He's looking a lot more consistent on the 3. And as long as he can keep getting those attempts up, can keep playing consistently, this is going to be a jumping off point for him. Now, we can talk about the health, can talk about the physicality, can talk about just how he managed things. He spoke in the post-game presser or on the court and basically said, hey, I felt better today. He had said to Bennett Durando earlier in the day, shout out to Bennett over at the Denver Post. He said, I feel better today. And he'd been dealing with some knee inflammation in the left knee where he tore his ACL. This is always just such a difficult thing for people to understand that have never torn their ACL before. I've never torn my ACL before, but I do have injuries where it's surgically repaired, and sometimes it's just weaker. Sometimes you just have residual impacts of what's actually happening there. And you just don't know how to navigate it, and sometimes you're just a little slower. Sometimes you just don't necessarily feel as good. And this one, it was just so clear to me that Murray did exactly what he needed to do to get himself ready for this game. He was physical. He was flying up and down the court. He got to his spots. He made quick decisions, and he generated separation. That's going to be the key for him consistently going forward. Very happy to see it. 45 points is the most points for him since 2021, since before he tore the ACL. If you guys remember, 50 points in Cleveland, in like January or February of 2021. That was the last time he scored 45 or more. Now that was an unbelievable game. This game I don't think compares quite to what that game was, where he shot 21 of 25 and had 0 free throws. That is burned into my brain. But it doesn't matter, because this is where Murray's at right now. He's been inconsistent, of course. This is only his second game where he's had 30-plus points. Cedric asks, is this his best game of the season, Ryan? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that this is his best game of the season. And it was because he came out and he just said, I'm going to make an impact tonight. I'm going to be extremely aggressive. I'm going to put the team on my back a little bit. And you got to know that Jokic was extremely happy to see that. He was very happy and more than willing, everybody, honestly, more than willing to kind of give Murray the ball and get out of the way, or screen for him, or find him off of a screen, or just to attack and transition and then find him in that way. There were so many opportunities where the team was just hunting for shots for Jamal. And I think everybody really cares about getting him going too. The team knows how important he is, because when Jokic has it going, okay, that's like every Tuesday. That's like every day of the week. Jokic always has it going. When Porter has it going, and it's become very consistent, but there's a certain level that Porter can't necessarily get to because he doesn't have the ball in his hands as often. He doesn't generate his own shots as often. With Murray, it gets up here. it gets up a little bit higher. And that is not to denigrate Porter. Porter has been Denver's second most consistent player, second best player, if I'm being honest, on a consistent basis. But Murray can just get to that other level. And having a second scorer that can go for a crooked number and win you a basketball game because of how dynamic he is, that is what separates Denver from being a playoff contender and a championship contender. This is probably the most encouraging game I've seen that says Denver can win a title because of Murray. Murray's that important. He just is. Denver doesn't everybody has had a lot of pressure on Murray for that reason because everybody knows how important he is. And this was a significant leap in that direction for Denver, where you just know that everybody in that locker room feeling good, everybody in that locker room happy for Jamal. And I think everybody has a little bit more confidence in just what they need to do, what's going on for this Nuggets group. Denver's in a good spot, and a lot of it is because Murray's now, we'll see what it looks like tomorrow, and that's kind of the thing with Jamal. He's still going to be inconsistent. There's still going to be lows. Denver's still going to have to navigate that. But just seeing that this is there is so valuable. I think it gives everybody something that they can hold on to, knowing that Murray can reach this level in an important game, even when the situation is tough for him. Because Dallas has some tough defenders. They're a pretty solid defensive team when they're locked in. They know how to do it. And I'm just very impressed with how he handled it. He didn't play well against Dallas in the first 3 matchups, found a way, navigated it, and really made an impact in this one.
From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Impossible, right? Well, right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 300 smackaroos in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement for the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. The Rams crushed the Vikings, but aren't getting any respect as they head into the matchup with the Eagles. I tell you, FanDuel has Philly favored by 6.5 points. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
We're diving deep into the Boston Celtics offensive issues. The Celtics offense is struggling a little bit, right? And struggling in a way that most teams would love to be struggling. Like they're putting up 110 points a game like that. That's not so bad. But in today's NBA, it's actually like, it's not the best considering teams have put up big numbers. So the first thing, we've talked a bunch about it. Is it, in your opinion, is it just as simple as them missing shots? I mean, is that something that if they just hit some of the shots that they would be fine, or do you see still some systemic things that are leading into that?
Well, on like the most reductive possible level, right? Like, yeah, the issue is that they're missing shots, Corrales. I don't know what you're talking about here. It's so
it's
yes,
very simply put, yes,
they just can't make or miss league, right? And I mean, you see that in some things where it's like there's elements where it's just fallen off. Like I think one of the stats that I found when I was kind of looking into it was like, all right, so Tatum in the last 15 games is shooting 31% from 3 when he takes 0 dribbles, whereas for the rest of the season it's like 38.6. So it's like there are some, so that just talking about catch and shoot threes, Jason Tatum is not making them. And that's like just, kind of a microcosm of like, hey, sometimes these guys are just missing shots that they totally could make. We've seen that with Al Horford. We've seen that with Derek White. We've seen that with, Peyton Pritchard at times. We've seen guys miss shots that they should probably make, at least to a higher degree than they are. But I think I think it's also pretty clear that it's not just that. It's not just that guys have gone cold, although they have. I think that there are things that you can do to be less cold, to we talk about it all the time, right? To generate the kinds of shots that you're more likely to make. And I think we saw a ton of that at the beginning of the year, and we've seen less of that as the year has gone on. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's perfectly plausible to say, like, hey, this team is going through a bit of a cold stretch, but then also some bad habits have made that cold stretch way worse than it might be if it was just that.
And that's where I think we start, because it's not as simple as, well, they're just missing. Because while they are often missing, and like you look at Derek White and some of these guys who have a track record of hitting a lot of shots, and now they're missing a lot of shots. It's not out of the question just to say everything can be the same and you hit a few of these shots and everything is fine. Or
right.
But my bigger problem here is I don't want the results to color the actual problem or the root cause. And maybe even calling it a problem is going a little too far, because you say, okay, what's a problem means that there's something broken or negative. I think they've changed their shot profile a little bit, where they are taking more 2s than 3s now. In November, 43% of their offense came from 2-pointers. Almost 57% came from 3-pointers. That was like a bit of an outlier. They were shooting a ton of 3s. That was like oh my God. That's where everybody's like, oh my God, the Celtics are trying to break the system.
Well, and they were generating all those 3s again to that distinction, right? They were creating a ton of great looks. Yeah.
They were creating. Yes, they were. Their offense was geared towards a ton of those 3s. Now they are taking more 2s than 3s. 50.3% of their offense comes from 2-pointers, and 49.7% comes. 53% of their offense comes from 2-pointers. 41. Okay, my numbers are off, but regardless,
the Celtics are taking 94% of their shots.
It's 50.3 to 49.7 2s to 3s. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Okay.
I think I'm being distracted. What people don't see is my dog is licking my foot. So they are attacking the rim more. And I think the big difference here is early this season, any hint of resistance between the player and the rim, they were kicking it out. And it was one of the things that I definitely noticed, like Tatum and Brown, like, they drove. And I think the drives, it's the one number I didn't look up. I think their drives are pretty similar. I don't think they're driving any more than they were before, anything significantly more. I think the drives are resulting in shots more often. Whereas earlier this season, they were drive and kick, and the kicks were coming super early in the offense. And that was resulting in a lot of 3-point shots. And I think now Tatum and Brown and a lot of these guys are attacking and just getting to the rim a lot more often. And I don't know if that's something that they see or if it's a function of, God, we are cold from 3 and I need to make something happen, which very easily could be the cold shooting feeding itself, where Tatum and Brown are just like, we're not scoring. We're not scoring from 3. No one's hitting. So I need to try to finish some of these shots. Maybe some of it is selfishness. Maybe somebody's trying to put up numbers. Whatever it is, they are taking a lot more shots in the restricted area. They're taking 25.5 shots in the restricted area in January, up from 19.7. So they're taking 6 more shots at the rim. And it's funny, I'll just throw this out there. Everybody's saying they shoot too many 3s. They got to get to the rim more. And here they are. They're giving up 3s. They're getting to the rim more, and their offense is struggling for it because they're shooting 68.5% at the rim now, as opposed to 73 at the rim.
Right.
Which, again, like, I know I'm talking a lot. You'll have a chance to talk. When I think, as I was saying, like they're driving, they're meeting more resistance at the rim, which means that's where the percentage drops. And if your percentage drops at the rim, the more you attack it, you're not really, what are you getting out of it? I think this is actually a little bit of a problem when you attack this much. And I know, like, some of the older school mentality, and I used to have this mentality. You go, you attack, and it doesn't matter if you're meeting resistance at the rim. Just go and try to force the issue, try to get some of those fouls. I actually think this is the wrong thing to do now, because the Celtics, with their old approach, were shooting 73+% at the rim. And when you're more selective, you're finishing and you're going back and setting your defense. When you're less selective, you're finishing less, and the other team is getting out into transition. They're getting easier looks, which means you're getting frustrated. And if they're getting easier looks and they're making more, you're going against the set defense. So I think there's a little bit of a cascading thing.